Okay, thank you, Warren. You can continue.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to welcome everybody to today's webinar on gender mainstreaming presented by CISA. We'll be talking with two shining examples of technical women in consulting engineering. I've just heard their stories and they're incredibly inspiring, and I hope that it inspires the rest of the attendees hearing what they've got to say. So I'm quite proud to see that one of my projects made it into CISA's title slides for these presentations. There to the right is a project that we entered into the CISA Aon Engineering Excellence Awards about 2 years ago, and it ended up winning in its category of projects under 250 million rand. So it's really nice to see that over there, even though the traffic is going in the wrong direction on this slide. So yeah, I'd just like to remind everyone to enter for the CISA Aon Engineering Awards. It happens every year, and there are project and individual categories. So almost everybody that you'll be seeing today has entered or has been entered into those awards. So we'd just like to encourage that for the upcoming awards next year. Okay, so today we will be listening to two guest speakers. I'm going to introduce them a little bit more detail in the following slides. Myself, Warren McLaughlin, I'm just here as the facilitator. So I'll just be handling the order of affairs throughout the webinar. So looking at what we've got lined up for you today, so I'm just going to give a little bit of an introduction to the speakers and a little bit of setting the scene for the following sessions. Then we've got two guest speakers, Jabu and Nhlapo, an engineering manager from Zutari. She'll be speaking first for a period of about half an hour, and then Waseemah Isaacs, who's a director and regional manager at Night Piésold, will be speaking afterwards. We will then, at the end of the session, have a question and answer session. So I would just like to ask everyone to pose your questions in the Q&A section of Zoom. You are also welcome to add any comments or personal stories into the chat, and we will then go through all of those questions and comments towards the end of the session after both speakers have concluded. Okay, so today is not about me. I am not a woman in engineering, but I thought let me give you a little bit of an introduction about the voice that you're hearing over your headphones or through your computer speakers. So I myself, I'm a professional civil engineer. At the moment, I work for SMEC South Africa. Got 13 years of experience, primarily in the design of national roads, provincial roads and highways. But I decided to expand my career somewhere during that 13-year period, moving from design into transport modeling, traffic engineering, and various other facets of civil engineering. So in terms of accolades, I know usually in these webinars, everyone lists all of their personal awards and everything, but I really like to live vicariously through my projects. So the actual work that I do and the projects that win awards that make a difference to everyday South Africans, that is really what I regard as my achievements. So as I mentioned, it's a little bit strange to have to hear a man leading a session on women in engineering, but I spoke to some of my colleagues and others from SAICI, and they said it's actually quite important to have everybody part of the dialogue. This isn't just a conversation amongst women telling their stories and inspiring each other. It's also for men to hear, what are the struggles, what are the challenges, what hurdles have been overcome by women in our industry. So it is really necessary for everybody to be part of a conversation and the conversations that we're having today. So not really my place to speak, but thought let me just say a little bit about the role of women in engineering. As we know, civil engineering and indeed any part of engineering has been a historically male profession. I think that anyone who's been in the industry for for longer than 10 years would have had the same experience of walking into their first job and seeing just men everywhere. But then we have to ask ourselves, but what other careers haven't historically been dominated by men? Even if you look at fashion, if you look at chefs, a lot of kitchens were run exclusively by men, but all of that has changed. Whether that's somewhere in the last 100 years or the last 5 years, almost every profession has started to become a lot more diverse and a lot more inclusive. And we certainly hope that the same is happening in every aspect of engineering. I think politics is the one that really lags behind, and I believe we need a lot more women in politics. So it's time for that. So just in terms of how things have changed in my career, so I joined SMEC in 2013. And that was one of the first things that I noticed. We had a team of about 13 people back then, and there were exactly 2 women in the team. We had 1 engineer and we had 1 secretary. And, I kind of expected to see that. But then over the years, things really changed. And it was actually 2 years ago that we were all having tea amongst the team. And we did a quick tally and we realized that we had more women in our team than men. So if that happened over only a 10-year period, you can imagine that that is really reflective of what is happening in our society, what is happening in our industry, and something that we would like to encourage, not just in transport engineering where I am, but in every other field as well. Then thirdly, a question that I've seen asked quite a lot, but I kind of think it's a little bit of a silly question, is people say, okay, great, we've got to get more women in STEM, we've got to get more women in engineering. And everybody says, okay, well, where should we put them? We should put them in project management, or, should we put them in leadership? And, this question comes up. And what I've really experienced is that I haven't seen that it's specific to a certain part of my job where I say, oh, yes, women make excellent transport modelers, or women make excellent bosses, or whatever. I've seen that women have excelled in every discipline and every level in the company, from graduate engineers all the way up to even our CEO at SMEC is a woman, and she's doing an absolutely fantastic job there. So I don't think that anybody should limit the role that women have in consulting engineering to just what do people think they're going to be good at. And then with today's session being on gender mainstreaming, I think the question is really, what is the road to mainstreaming? And I believe that what that really means is that we have women and men in all roles, in all parts of consulting engineering. So that's just my 2 cents. I think that, that is really part of a much wider discussion. And that is why we've brought 2 excellent speakers into today's session, who will give their story, and they'll give, their experiences from their perspective and what they've experienced. So I think that is really enough from me. I'm going to introduce our first speaker. So we've got Jabu Nhlapo. She's a professional mechanical engineer in HVAC. She also has her MBA, very, very prestigious achievement over there. She's an engineering manager at Zutari. And after earning her stripes as a mechanical design engineer, Jabu has established herself as a trusted leader in engineering management. With over 17 years of experience delivering complex projects across Africa and the UK, she now serves as an engineering manager at Zutari, where she oversees technical integration, quality, and stakeholder collaboration on large multidisciplinary projects. As a woman in engineering, she is driven by impact, strategic delivery, and building teams that execute with excellence. Her work reflects a balance of technical rigor, sustainability, and inclusivity in project outcomes. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over to Jabu. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Warren. I really appreciate the very positive, complimentary introduction. And good afternoon to everyone, and really welcome to this webinar. I'm very excited to be a part of this. I feel honored to really be partnering with my colleagues here on the call. I'm sure we're going to hear some incredible insights from the team as we're going along. So I'm going to quickly share my screens. You can just let me know once you can see my slides. I have a few slides that I'd like to share with you. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Perfect.
We're seeing
All
your
right.
PowerPoint window at the moment.
Okay, can you see the full screen now?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Thanks a lot, Warren. So yeah, again, a big thank you to CISA for this opportunity, to Warren for facilitating and guiding such an important conversation, and as well as to my fellow panelist, Waseemah. I think we'll always be able to learn a lot from each other, no matter how long you've been in the industry. There's plenty to learn as you grow as an engineer. I never have gotten to a point where I felt like I know it all. So I'm excited to hear what everyone has to share. So I'll share a little bit about myself before I start on my journey, so that everyone sort of understands where I'm coming from. So my name is Jabu Nhlapo. As Warren mentioned, I'm a professionally registered engineer. Obtained my professional registration in mechanical engineering, HVAC. I also have an MBA. I'm currently with Zutari, a very large consulting engineering firm. For those of you who are not familiar with Zutari, we operate in Africa and in the Middle East. Recently promoted to associate within Zutari, which is great, and I'm an engineering manager within the resources business. So I have a BSc honors in mechanical engineering, Masters of Business Administration, as Warren mentioned, and I have 17 years working experience. So I've actually worked in multiple sectors in my career. You know, the initial part of my career in consultancy was in the property and building sector, and that really has been the most part, about 10 years of my life. Working in property and buildings, designing HVAC for large and very complex projects and clients. But more recently, I've transitioned into the mining, oil and gas space, just to diversify from an engineering point of view. I think I was very curious as to what's happening outside of property and buildings, and I was afforded a great opportunity within Zutari in the resources business. You know, something interesting about myself is I'm very passionate about delivering engineering projects across Africa, across this continent. You know, I've received many opportunities to move overseas and become a design engineer in various parts of the world, but I love doing work on this continent. I'm really proud of the continent that we have, and I think there's so much opportunity and potential in this on Africa, in Africa. So that is my passion. And as well as building the next generation of engineers. Most of us who I've been in the industry for 17 years. The best thing that I feel you can do as a leader is to build stronger engineers than you were. You know, pass on as much knowledge as you can to the next generations, that we can really grow as a nation, as an industry, and also see more diversity within the sector that we're in. Okay. So I'm going to title this slide Designing My Path, My Journey Through Engineering. I'm just going to take everyone through what my journey in engineering has been like, some of the challenges that I've faced, you know, things that I felt or, you know, identified were important to grow in the sector. And I'll really take you through from the beginning through to where I am at the moment. The journey is not over. I still have a very long way to go. But yeah, we're getting there one step at a time. So creating the blueprints, let's start there. You know, we all know that when it comes to the design process, when it comes to the execution of a project, the first step is creating the blueprints, the designs, the drawings, whatever will be used to execute on site, the models that need to be used by the contractor. So starting point is creating the blueprints on this slide. And just to give everyone a bit of context as to how long I've been around, I matriculated in 2002. when I matriculated in 2002, I actually had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. But as a young black girl, you know, your parents, especially in those days, there were a handful of careers that they encouraged you to do. If you could do maths and if you could do science. If you could do maths and science, you become a doctor, you become an accountant, or number three, you become an engineer. I'm sure some people who are on the call will identify with that. Obviously, our parents didn't have much exposure to other sectors, so those were the key professions for them that they felt like you've arrived if you've become any of those. So I was encouraged in my case to be an engineer by my parents. And I mean, I actually applied to multiple universities for different courses. Um, and I got a scholarship to go to Wits for the first year of study at Wits. And I thought to myself that, okay, well, since I've got a scholarship, let me see what this engineering thing is about. Although I don't have much exposure, let's see what I can gain from this experience. And it was the best decision I could have made for my life and for my career. An accidental decision, but the best decision nonetheless. So I graduated from Wits University in 2008 with an honors in mechanical engineering. And I didn't actually start in the consulting engineering space. I started in the operations space. I began my career working for ABI. ABI at the time, who were part of the SAB group, which was a cool drink manufacturing business. I was there for the first year of my career. I wasn't really happy in the operations space, so I ended up moving into the property space. And it was quite a difficult beginning to my career. I think I didn't have a very standard start to my career because I sort of wanted to take some time to get a bit of a feel for what was out there. So I was in the property space for some time, in the property development space. When I was in the property development space, then I somehow ended up getting pulled back into the technical side of things. But what I can say is that my time of being in the operations and property development and user space has really helped to bolster my understanding of the importance of engineering, the importance of design, and actually being able to link whatever you're doing in the design process to the end product and the user's experience. So yeah, that was the first 3 to 4 years of my career was actually in the operations and property space. So ultimately, I got my introduction into engineering consulting in a very small firm. The firm was called Gibona Consulting Engineers. It was a firm that was started by a colleague that I had met some years whilst I was in university, and I spent a year working for this engineering consulting firm. It doesn't exist at the moment. And that was where I realized how much opportunity and how incredible a space the consulting engineering sector is, and the amount of fulfillment that you can find in the design sector. So because I really wanted to bolster my experience and get exposed to much larger projects, I moved from the smaller consultancy firm and I moved to a company called WSP, which some of you might be familiar with. And this is where I really got the broader part of my engineering experience. I was at WSP for 10 years of my career. I started there as a junior engineer, running around for the lead engineers, doing site inspections, doing drawings, doing first principle calculations for HVAC, doing markups. At the time, we didn't have as much usage of building information of BIM at the time, building information management, and we worked a lot on AutoCAD and did physical markups in that phase of my career. So that's what I was really doing a lot. And what was important for me, as I was reflecting and preparing for this presentation, was really as a young engineer, learning to embrace the challenges that you face. There are going to be lots of challenges, going to site for the first time, dealing with contractors for the first time. Embrace the challenges and sort of work through them and take ownership of whatever it is that you've been given and entrusted with by your senior engineers. Earning the trust of the people that are leading you and that you're working with is so important for your career progression. The more you earn their trust, the more you deliver well, the more they can entrust you with larger and bigger responsibilities. So ultimately, the third phase of my journey I'll call becoming and growing in design. After gaining a lot of experience in the design space, I started to get exposed to much larger and international projects. As Warren mentioned, I've done projects for the UK, I've done projects in Nigeria, I've done projects in Zambia. I've delivered projects in all sorts of incredible locations, and the latter part of my time at WSP, I was exposed to some incredible hospital projects, some very complex academic hospitals, doing the HVAC design for them. A few difficult projects where there were mistakes made by previous designers, and we had to go in and do some rectification designs. So yeah, ensuring as well, learning to also learn from mentors in that space. I think people sometimes aren't always aware how important it is to have mentors in your career, technical mentors, and also those who can also guide you as a professional in maybe the softer areas of your life. I had a lot of mentors, some who were direct mentors and I would sit and meet with on a regular basis, as well as mentors that I observed and admired from a distance, that I might have not necessarily had access to. So in this time, I think it was important for me, especially if you're wanting to grow in consulting engineering, I gained a lot of business development experience, learning to deal with clients, winning new projects, building additional scope on existing projects. And one thing that was a big learning lesson for me in growing within WSP was the ability to make sure that you constantly volunteer for opportunities and tasks that are beyond your day to day. So that, for me, I would say to young people is a critical part of your career. Is don't just focus on the minimum scope of work that you have been given as an engineer, but really extend yourself beyond the day to day, where there's where your seniors need help and it's not part of your everyday. Put your hand up. That's a lot of the time where my opportunities sprung up as an engineer. So at this phase of my career, now I am in the engineering management space. I moved and transitioned into Zutari as an engineering manager, and more specifically because I just wanted to expand my sectoral experience into mining, oil and gas, and just see, what other kind of infrastructure projects can I contribute to as a woman in engineering. So I found really that my early design experience helped me to build such a strong and firm foundation for me to be able to manage and coordinate engineers for the large projects that I'm currently working on. Working on processing, large processing plant projects, tank farm projects, oil and gas, petroleum storage, and the design part of my career really helps you to understand how to integrate various parts of the engineering design. There's going to be civil, mechanical, electrical, structural engineering design. If you've been in the design space yourself and gone through that execution space, in managing that for larger multidisciplinary projects becomes a lot easier. So my role at the moment is now guiding and empowering teams to thrive and deliver great projects. This is by ensuring that we deliver quality, we meet the client's requirements, where the team needs technical expertise, making sure that we reach out to the right people, the relevant people, and just making sure that we deliver a stellar product for our client. So this slide, I just wanted to sort of give everyone a bit of a feel as to what the engineering and consulting engineering space can expose you to. I have been afforded some incredible opportunities throughout my career, and this is these are some of the platforms that I've been able to go and, you know, give presentations on some of the technicalities of the projects I've delivered. I've been to the Royal College of Physicians. At the time, I was the healthcare lead at WSP and presented on a few of the projects that we had delivered within the African business. Been featured in African Decisions Leadership magazine as a specialist design engineer, where they sought insights from us, from a, you know, just wanting to understand the thinking around being an engineer. I've been on multiple platforms where I've presented with Phillips and Forbes, and obviously this opportunity as well. I thought it was more than fitting to make sure that we give a nod to this platform that has been provided by CISA. There really are some incredible opportunities to grow, to empower, to share your knowledge, to share your expertise, build your brand as an engineer. If you can just delve into the foundations of becoming a design engineer, working through those initial difficult years. The beginning years can be quite difficult when you're trying to learn and understand the space, but it is an investment definitely well worth it in the end. So yeah, that is my presentation. I'll end off with a quote here, that human beings, their ideas, innovations, dreams, and connections are the capital of the future, because where great minds go today, great things will happen tomorrow. And that's really what design is about. Design is about, you know, that fulfillment that you feel from marking up a drawing, putting a design together in a model, seeing it evolve from a thought in your mind to a final execution and product that a user is using and the client is very happy to see. That is one of the most fulfilling things that you can experience as a design engineer. So yeah, hopefully I've been able, Warren, to encourage a few people or young engineers out there to join the space that we're in. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Jabu. That was really quite an inspiring story, your whole journey that you went through. 17 years is quite a bit of time. And it seems like you've really had an amazing experience, and you've really got to, dip your toes into so many facets of engineering. And it's that type of experience that you build up over years that makes you a stronger engineer. I think that there was one thing that you mentioned that really I felt quite inspiring, and I hope that everybody takes a page out of your book with that. Is that you said your objective is to build stronger engineers than yourself. And I think that in the early parts of your career, it's often tempting to focus very solely on yourself and your own development. So to hear somebody say that, that it's not just you working on you, it's you working on you, everyone in your team, and all the future engineers that are to come. So I think that that leads into just one question from myself, is that as engineers, we sort of have this natural propensity to go from being very technical and getting our hands dirty to landing up in leadership roles. Where we don't get to be as technical as what we were in our earlier years. With our focus then going on to the second generation that comes after us. So I'd just like to hear from you, do you think that that is a natural progression that everybody should be following, sort of leaving behind the more technical stuff? Or do you think that that is something that is really up to the individual? And, from your experience, should you remain technical for your career?
Such a great question. I think, look, for me, either whatever your preference is and wherever your passion lies is what you need to follow. The world is so much in need. Yes, it's important that we have leaders in the engineering space, and myself, you, Waseemah, Jabulile, who's also on the call. As you grow in leadership, it affords you the opportunity to be able to pull other younger engineers up and encourage them into that space. You sort of fall into a decision-making space, which is really helpful for those that are coming up behind us. But then there's also that ability to really become a strong technical specialist. This country and this continent is so much in need of people who just want to focus on becoming incredible specialists. And I've met people who have really made such a great success of their careers within that space, and they're well sought after technical people. And you find that a lot of the time, Warren, they're even, because I know people will always be wondering about the money side of things, but they tend to even be paid more than your leaders, because they attract the projects, they attract the clients because of the level of their expertise. So I would really encourage people to follow your passion. You do not have to go into the leadership role. There's such incredible opportunities in the technical space, and we've seen that with the multiple technical experts that we also have within Zutari. So yes.
Yes, thank you so much for those inspiring words. I think that is a lot that we hear from graduate engineers coming in. They think, okay, they've got to get up to the top of the corporate ladder before they start making the money. And yeah, I would just like to encourage everybody to, like you say, follow your passion. You know, stick with what you know and what you really want to be good at. And the money will just come. Not that we're here to talk about the money. Okay, thank you, Jabu. We're going to take some questions throughout the remainder of the webinar. So everyone, please pose any questions or comments in the webinar, in the Q&A or in the chat, and then we'll come back to Jabu at the end of the webinar. So with that being said, I would just like to introduce our next speaker. Let me just share there. Okay, our next speaker is Waseemah Isaacs. She has got her BTech of Civil Engineering, which she got from the Cape Peninsula University of Technology. Waseemah is an executive director at Piésold, South Africa, with over 23 years of experience in the consulting and civil and transport engineering industry. So I'm feeling very junior all of a sudden with the heavyweights of expertise and a number of years in today's session. As the Western Cape Regional Manager at Piésold, she leads teams focused on delivering excellence while developing and retaining talent through structured and informal mentorship. As the first Black woman appointed into these roles, Waseemah has led major infrastructure and transport projects across South Africa. A registered professional engineering technologist, she is respected for her technical expertise, visionary leadership, and commitment to transformation. She's passionate about developing future leaders. She has mentored numerous young professionals, including other women, to professional registration with EXA. Through her work, Waseemah promotes inclusivity, sustainability, and collaboration to build a more resilient and equitable engineering industry. She remains deeply committed to delivering sustainable, community-focused infrastructure while nurturing the next generation of engineering leaders. Okay, so with that, I will hand over to you, Waseemah. Thank you.
Thank you, Warren, for that lovely introduction. And also thanks to Jabu for sharing your journey with us. It's really amazing to hear another woman take us through her journey. And thank you to everybody else on the call. Thank you for your time. It's really appreciated. And without further ado, I am going to share my screen and hope that it works, because I've said I'm not a Zoom person. So is it visible, Warren? Can you see my screen?
Yes, you are officially a Zoom person.
I still need to finish the presentation, so let's see. Okay, so thanks again for everybody for joining. I'd like to take you through my journey, and it was quite nostalgic because trying to get 23 years into a slideshow was a bit of a challenge, but I do hope that I could do my years justice. And I thought that the best way to do it is to just take you very much like Jabu has, like right from the beginning and all the way to where I am today. So my journey as a student. So I studied civil engineering at Cape Technikon, which is now CPUT. I graduated in December of 2001 with my national diploma in civil engineering. So you can see me there, all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, ready to take on the world. And then in 2002, I started my first job as a technician at Ash Consulting Engineers. I studied my BTech part-time. I started immediately, but I did take my time with it. I did a few subjects a year. And then in 2004, I moved to a company called KAD Consulting Engineers. And then in 2005, I registered as a candidate engineering technician with EXA. I'm also just going to touch on a few of the projects that I worked on in my journey. These were projects that have some significance to me. And again, like I said, it was a bit of a walk down memory lane when I set up this presentation. So you'll see a picture of Robben Island there. So for 3 years of my career, I used to take a ferry for 3 times a week. I used to take the ferry over to the island, and I'm not going to lie, there were days when I got to the other side and I was quite green because we didn't take the catamarans that the tourists took. We had to take the ferry with the staff. So yeah, the ride was not always great. It was bumpy, but I did learn a lot. We were involved in the reverse osmosis plant over there, which took seawater and turned it into potable drinking water. So that was a very interesting project. And then I was also involved in the Rogebaai Canal on the left. I used to walk to site. Our office at Ash Consulting was on the foreshore, and I used to walk to site every day, and I used to have a look and see what was going on. I was a very junior RD on the site. And then I used to go back to the office and I used to continue on with my design work. And then on the right-hand side, you'll see this is the parking area at the Grand West Casino. So I was involved in the design of that as well. Then moving on, I completed my BTech in 2006 in urban engineering. And then in 2007, I was promoted to technologist. I also obtained my PR Tech Eng with EXA in 2007. And then these are the projects that I was involved in during that time. On the left, you'll see a town there. The town is called Piésold. So there were 3 towns that we were involved in on this specific project. It was Piésold, Genatendal, and Voorstekral. And those towns were situated close to the N2, close to Caledon. And at the time, all of these people were still using the bucket system. And we were involved in designing the bulk sewer lines to give them potable flushing or flushing toilets. So that one was quite nice for me. And then on the right-hand side, you'll see there to the right top of the screen, there is a river there. So we actually built a manhole in the river to extract water for the people of the town. Then moving on, in 2010, KAD merged with Piésold Consulting Engineers, and I was promoted to Senior Civil Technologist. I also obtained my EXA PR Tech Eng in 2011. And on the top left-hand side, you'll see a beautiful photo, and that is a photograph of our main road project. So it stems all the way, it's a road all the way from the bottom right of the screen to the top left. And it ran all the way from Muizenberg to Fischhoek. Big constraint was you had the sea on the one side and you had the mountain on the other side. So what we thought was a project that was only going to take us a few years ended up to be 10 years. But I did learn a lot on that project as well. There was quite a bit of community involvement as well. And then on the right-hand side, this is the Rondebosch Common over here. So we do a lot of non-motorized transport work as well. And then at the bottom, there was my first main road project. That was the Long Street in Bredasdorp. It was an upgrade project. And then also some awards. The project for the main road won the CISA Aeon Excellence Awards in 2015. Me on site. I was fortunate enough to be involved in the blowing up of the Athlone cooling towers. And on the right, you'll see me standing next to the rubble. And then in 2014, I was promoted to a principal technologist. And then one of the projects that I was heavily involved in was I also did a bit of an article for IMESA for the magazine on that project. And it was about the community and creating local jobs for the community through our projects. We also received an IMESA award for the Main Road project, and then also in 2018 we received the Main Road project because and then as a principal technologist, I was involved in one of my best projects ever, and that is the Wild Coast Road. It is the section of road between the Msikaba and the Mtento bridges. It is a greenfields project of about just over 18 kilometers of dual carriageway, a brand new section of road. So this one is close to my heart. I've been working on it since 2017. It is currently in construction and it's around about 50% complete. You'll see me there, the tiny little person on the left next to that structure. And then following on, also still in the Wild Coast, I was involved a lot in the community engagement. You'll see a picture there of us sitting next to, it was quite a hot day, but the hall that we were given was not big enough to host the community. And then the chief decided to take everybody outside and put us under a few of the trees. And then we actually did our presentation outside, which was really, really good. And then in the bottom there, I'm actually briefing the contractors for one of the work packages. I also have to do, I had to do as a principal technologist, a lot of engagements with clients, a lot of business development, and then also have fun along the way. So you'll see that's myself and a colleague there, we're busy marking out patches on the road. And on the right, you'll see a very serious me busy with some route measurements as well. Then moving on to my journey as a manager. So in 2020, I was promoted to regional manager of the Western Cape. That's a picture of the team there. We won some company awards in 2023, so we were quite proud of that. So as a manager, just to give you a little bit of insight into the office that I manage, we are 32 people in the Cape Town design office. Then there are 10 people in the Wild Coast site office, and there are 5 people in the Sierras site office as well. So even though my role has moved on from mainly technical, and I'm still involved in technical projects, I have to be. Because I need to know what's going on, but also I love being involved in technical projects because that's what I studied. It's my passion. But I've had to make a shift because the role is now different, the responsibilities are different, but I still do very, very much enjoy it. So just here you'll see some pictures of the team and the fun that we have in the office. And then my journey as a director. So last year I was elected to the board of directors of Piésold South Africa. On the left, you'll see a photo of the directors, and on the right, you'll see a photo of the female directors. So we are 50% female directors at the firm, which is really great. And then as a director, we have 6 regional offices in South Africa. They are listed over there, 12 departments in total, and then we've got about 250 staff. So even more responsibility, but also still enjoying it a lot. I'm learning a lot along the way, which is great. And then just a little bit of my journey on giving back. So at Piésold, we are really, really big on giving back to the communities. So in most of our offices, every year, we host the CISA Job Shadow Day. We host other job shadow days as well, but we definitely do the CISA at least once a year. And that is where we engage with high school students who are interested in engineering, but we also focus on females, and we try to get to talk to them one-on-one And we give them a little bit of insight into the world of consulting engineers and what they will expect if they do decide to go this route. And I think that's important because a lot of the students at high school don't know what civil engineering is all about. And in this one day, we can give them just a small little window into what it is all about and hopefully encourage them to take it further as a career. I also am very much involved in mentoring. I've mentored many candidates in my career. It's definitely a passion of mine. I do enjoy giving back. And you'll see on the left, this is a picture of some of my candidates. I noticed when I was putting the slideshow together that there aren't any females, but I just want to mention that just in this last year alone, I have mentored 3 females to successfully register with EXA. So I'm very, very proud of that. So I just thought I'd mention that. And then I also try and engage as much as I can with tertiary institutions. I was at the engineer to engineer exchange at UCT, which happened a few months ago. And I was also on the panel for students to ask us any questions. Then moving on. So lastly, just to close off, some of my insights and guidance that I've picked up in the 23 years of my experience. So firstly, learn as much as you can and don't be afraid to ask questions. So don't think that there is such a thing as a stupid question, because you would be stupid not to ask the question and not know the answer and walk away with that knowledge, without that knowledge. So ask questions all of the time. And then secondly, nothing is beneath you. Humble yourself always. We all humans, we all people. Just because you have titles doesn't make you any better than the next person. So just remember where you've come from. Then make time to listen to people. That, to be honest, lately has been one of my biggest challenges because I'm so busy. But I do try my best to make time to listen to people because sometimes that's all they need is just for you to listen to them. And then if you can, just help them along the way with some advice. Continue to push yourself out of your comfort zone. Every time in my career that I've achieved, I've not been in my comfort zone. So unless you are willing to get out of your comfort zone, if you want to stay comfortable, that's fine. That's a choice you make. But if you want to move forward, you have to get uncomfortable. And then it's okay to be afraid to fail, but be prepared for when you do. So people often ask me, are you afraid to fail? The answer is yes. But if I do fail, I'm going to be prepared so that I don't fall too far and then I won't be able to pick myself back up again. This is going to sound harsh, but stop complaining and do something about it. Often I speak to someone and they're complaining to me about something, and then a couple of like some time passes by and I speak to them and they're complaining about the same thing. And then I ask myself, have you actually done something to help yourself get out of your situation? So if you're not going to make the change to make your life better, then don't complain about it. The road is never easy, but it doesn't mean that you can't have fun along the way. Engineering is difficult. It is hard. I think everybody on the call can attest to that. But it's also fun, right? We're not going to do something that we don't enjoy. So you have to have fun. And then lastly, and I love to say this often, just keep on keeping on. I mean, there's going to be times where you're going to be taking 2, 3, 4, 5 steps back, but you will be able to take steps forward again. So just keep on keeping on and don't give up. And I think that's the end of my story. Thank you very much. Stop sharing.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Waseemah. That is really quite a career that you've had. I think that there's many people who would be quite envious of all the experiences that you've had. I think that I really appreciated that you had so many visuals there of your projects. Especially being in transport engineering, it's really inspiring to go into Google Earth and then just scroll over and be like, yeah, I made a mark on the on the surface of
It
the
was
Earth.
fun. It was fun, yeah.
So yeah, before we go into the full Q&A, I see that we've got a bunch of questions that came in and a bunch of comments that came in the chat. The one project that I'd really just like to know a little bit more about is one that I think had more of a community impact. Can you tell us a little bit more about that bucket removal project?
Yes, yes, no, sure. Look, I really needed to rack my brain because it was way back in the beginning of my career. But so what happened was we started out actually going from house to house. So we walked the entire towns, all of the towns, from door to door. We knocked on the door to find out how many people lived there. I remember one, I think this woman was almost 90, well, sorry, almost 100 years old. And she invited us in and we sat in a lounge. I was trying to look for the photograph because I know there was a photo of us sitting in the lounge with the clipboard. And she was in tears. She was telling us that she'd been waiting so long for a flushing toilet. And I think it's those, it's not a project that is basically what's the word I'm saying? It's not something it's a big project, but it's something that touches you because you actually get to make a difference in someone's lives, in the community's lives. And I think that for me is the most rewarding part of what we do, is that we get to give back to the community in some way.
Yes, I definitely agree. I think that's one of the more important parts of why we do what we do, is to
Mm.
have an impact on the people on the fringes of society, the people who, don't have any prospect of, ever owning a car, ever, moving into a city where they've got access to all of these amenities. I think
Yeah.
that, you get projects that win fantastic awards, and then you get projects that it just means far more to a single community than what an award to a company or to an individual could ever mean. That's really quite inspiring. I think that's really amazing.
Thanks. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, and then also your Wild Coast Road project. I think that it's amazing how small a world civil engineering can be. So SMEC worked on the Msikaba and the M10
Yes.
bridges,
Yes.
and then you worked on the section of road between the two bridges. So
Yeah.
you never know who you're going to run into, and what that they're working on a site right next to you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, absolutely, absolutely. And we pushed for time as well because we always make a joke in the office and we say there's no point in having two of these beautiful bridges, but no road to join them. So yeah, we got to make sure that when the bridges are done, the road's there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're all very excited to take a road trip once that that project opens up.
Definitely, definitely.
Okay, thank you, Waseemah. I'm going to start going through some of the questions and answers that we've received either through the chat um, or questions that we've previously received from online. Let me just quickly switch out here. Just want to see, can you see my questions and answers screen over there? I just want to check that the right screen is shared.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so there is a question for Jabu over here. So you've worked for very small and then for very large consultants. Did you notice that there was any difference in the way, in the roles that engineers, that women had in the different sizes of companies?
Yeah, I think so between the two sizes of the firms, I wouldn't say specifically to engineering, but I would say just from a technical point of view, being in a smaller consultancy, you're given a lot more responsibility quite early on. Whereas at a much later stage well, in a much larger consultancy, I think the progression is much more staged and planned through, depending on the various, on your level in the business. So yeah, I think from no significant differences between, I'd say, between women in either a small or larger consultancy. I think the role of women needs to increase in whichever consultancies that we're in.
Yeah, and I think that kind of ties into one of the points in your presentation, which was that if you put your hand up, the opportunities will come. And I think that maybe some people are just, they feel, okay, well, I won't get this role. or I won't get to work on that project because I'm new, because I'm a woman, because I'm, whatever. So they never put up their hand, and then the opportunity never comes their way. So yeah, I think it's really about just saying, I'm willing, I'm here, and then demonstrating your capabilities, and then earning the trust of your
Yes,
colleagues
and
to put you in that position.
I mean, and Warren, to that point, to exactly what Waseemah said, is you have to be ready to get out of your comfort zone. If you want to grow in any space, it doesn't matter whether engineering or other. You're going to have to do what's uncomfortable, what you may not be, fully exposed to, but really embrace the challenge, embrace the opportunity, and you'll see that you'll be surprised what you can do if you really just put your best foot forward.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. Okay, and then Waseemah, a question for you, and this was actually one that I had myself, because I've seen it come up quite often in consulting. So Michelle asked, how have you maneuvered through your career and achieving your goals with a BTech? I'm asking this because in Botswana, most tender proposals call for engineers with a BEng or BSc, which becomes most employers' preferred candidates when hiring.
Okay, interesting question. And I did get this question often before, and I still do. Um, so just for the record, or for everybody on this call, I was accepted for civil engineering at Stellenbosch and at UCT, and obviously at CPUT at Cape Tech. The reason I declined the other two was because my parents couldn't afford to send me to university at the time, because it was twice the amount of money, if not more, at a university versus a technikon. My mom and my dad both work, but they both worked, so I couldn't get the, what's it, NAFSIS student funding at the time. So I was sort of stuck. But to put it simply, it's all about what you put your mind to, right? And I know you're in Botswana, but it is a little bit different here in South Africa. When we tender, there is the option of having the BEng or having the BTech, or having the qualification, for PR Tech or PR Eng. So it is a little bit easier probably in South Africa. I do see that you might have a different challenge in Botswana, but if I can give you a little bit of advice, it's all up to the individual. And if you have drive and if you have passion, then you can achieve whatever you put your mind to.
Yeah, thank you. I like to remind people that the very first engineers did not have engineering degrees, and look at the amazing
Exactly.
things that they accomplished.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Jabulile, from CISA's side, I'd like to just ask you to maybe share your thoughts on this gender mainstreaming journey.
Yeah, no, thanks for the opportunity. So I know there's something now called diversity fatigue, because the message keeps on being said so much. And in other spaces, it is actually used as a tick box rather than something that matters. In various other committees that I sit in, even international ones, they're actually moving away from the words of gender diversity or even diversity, equity, and inclusion to something called belonging. And Warren, when you opened up, you said, for example, when you started at SMEC, there were probably like 2 or 3 ladies, right? And you look at the profile 13 years later, and half the staff profile is probably female, which it might be unique to SMEC, and it might be unique to certain fields as well. So there is still a need to diversify our industry, not only from a gender perspective, but from other perspectives as well, including age. Yesterday, I attended the SciC GeoDiv AGM, And we have a serious shortage of experienced geotechnical engineers to deal with dolomite land issues, because the handful of them that are still remaining are close to retirement, and no one has come up to that level of competence, right? So we've got a serious need to diversify in other areas and to bring both male and female along. The issue with the female is that most of the times they've been made to believe that they can't contribute on a technical level, especially on critical technical matters. And some of them don't have that attitude or the guts or that spirit of can do, will do, right? And they believe some of these brainwashing or even, I would take it as far as lies that they've heard, and then they get discouraged and they don't put their hand up because they don't think that they're capable. There's been many a meeting or a site inspection where an equal level of experience, male and female engineer, attend, and the client or the landowner will be directing questions at the male, because there's just this thing about boys are natural engineers, and so get this automatic trust, whereas the girls need to be working harder to first prove that they're competent, and then only do they get respected, right? So we need to just reframe that and change that. And that's why we need to bring the male along, because in a situation like that, a Warren could say, oh, no, but Mpumi did this work. Can she answer this question? Rather than Warren being completely unaware and perpetuating this problem that we're having. So that's why this discussion is still necessary. And that's why it is necessary to highlight the technical work that the Jabu Nhlapos and the Waseemah Isaacs are doing, just so that that young engineer or that graduate can see that they can become a technical lead at some point in their career. And not only a technical lead, you can balance it too. I mean, Waseemah told you she's doing engineering work as well as managerial work. And my company, same. If I don't do engineering work, if I don't get out to site, I actually become a bit grumpy because I'm an engineer first, then I am a manager, right? So I need to get out to site. I need to see solutions being solved. I need to see designs come to life, right? And so we're just trying to say it is possible. We've done it. You can do it. And our male counterparts, please encourage the girls to take up the space of technical leadership. Yeah.
Okay, yes, thank you so much for all of that input. I think that it is very encouraging that that our voluntary organizations like CISA are taking such a proactive role in making sure that these discussions happen, in webinars like this and other platforms. You mentioned diversity fatigue, where people say, okay, but we've had this discussion for how long now? Surely it should be sorted out by now. And then you look around and you say, but is it sorted out? And then even in my situation, where we landed up with a team of more than 50% women, we still have to have that discussion. We can't say, okay, well, we feel like we've resolved it now, and now we can go back to back to the status quo that was before. I think that there's a risk that could happen again. So it is a discussion that has to be kept alive. Okay. I just want to see, there were some other questions over here, and this kind of ties into something that you were saying, Jabulile, and I'd like to pose it to Jabu, because us as consulting engineers, we pretty much inevitably end up doing some time on site. Where we are not always sitting in the office behind our screens. So I'd just like to hear, did you have, what was your experience between being on site and being in the office? Was there a difference in the way that that you were treated? Because I've heard that that's something that happens quite a bit.
Such an interesting question, Warren, and I resonate with what Jabulile said around, you know, the questions being posed a lot of the time to your male counterparts. Sometimes that male counterpart may even be junior than you are, and you're actually mentoring the person, but because of how the industry is structured and what people are familiar with, that sort of becomes the, you know, the automatic response of most people. What I would say, I mean, I love site. I mentioned to when we started, when I meant to you guys when we started, is that I actually am on site today. um, and I love coming to site. It's great to be able to see what you've designed and put on paper, what you've coordinated and managed to come to life in reality. So you can never take away being on site from being an engineer. I think it's one of the core parts. If you want to gain technical experience, if you want to gain technical know-how, you're going to have to build the confidence to get to site. And what I would just advise young engineers out there, more especially women, I mean, my first experience on site was very daunting. My line manager at the time sent me to site on my own. It was my first time on a construction site, and he said the contractors that I was going to meet with, and they were not expecting a young black girl from the engineering firm that I was with at the time. And you just have to, like what Waseemah was saying, get out of your comfort zone, push yourself a little bit further, and focus on being technically astute. Sometimes you need to put aside the inhibitions that you may have as a woman and thinking about the environment and what's going on around you. Focus on just being brilliant, doing a good job. And I found that that tends to speak for itself in those kinds of environments. When people start to see how much value you add into a project, how much value you add technically, that in and of itself has really allowed me to, you know, build even really good relationships with people that ordinarily when people look on the outside might say, okay, how is it that you're such good friends with these contractors or with this type of main contractor on site? Do really well. People respect you when you're good at your trade, and that really is what has worked for me. Being in the office, I think it's also necessary. That's where your designs get done, right? So I would say a balance of both is critical in the space that we're in.
Yeah, thank you for that. So it sounds like, you know, some people have got it a little bit easier. Some people have got a little bit more legwork trying to break down those old preconceptions about, you know, you're like you said, you know, you're a young black lady and saying, oh, you know, but why are you here? And once you earn that respect, once you show off your technical capabilities and earn that trust, then it should really be no different from anyone else. So I'm very glad to hear that that situation is changing, because in the earlier years of my career, it was almost a rule. You know, you send the ladies to the easy site in the nicer area, you know, for a shorter duration, you know, and I guess they can do quantities and things like that, and they don't, you know, get the same level of exposure on site. So I'm glad to hear that that is changing. Okay, and then a question for both of our panelists. You know, just a little bit of a shout out to those people who have inspired you in the past. Were there any mentors, you know, any moments or mentors that shaped your journey in your technical workspace that you'd like to mention? I'll start with Waseemah, and then we can hand over to Jabu. Waseemah, you're still on mute.
Sorry. Yes, Warren, from my side, definitely. You know, when you're at tech and you're studying and you've got all of those books and that's your first insight into design. It's not the same when you get into industry. It's a big culture shock because all you've ever had is theory. And the only way you learn is through practical experience. And the only way that you get that practical experience is through mentorship and guidance from your seniors, from your colleagues. So each and every one of the projects that I've ever worked on, I've learned from someone. It didn't have to be a senior in the team. It could have been a colleague as well, and vice versa. I'm sure there are projects that I've worked on where my colleagues have learned from me. So it's a give and take. Throughout your career, I'm still learning today, every day. But you've got to be open to it. You've got to be open to accept the knowledge that other people give you and share with you. And then you will learn until the day you die, until the day you close your briefcase and you walk away from engineering, which I think in my case, I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to do it. I think I'll just be bored out of my mind. But yeah, I'm not going to mention any names, but absolutely, um, almost everybody that I've met in my career that I've worked on projects, and that goes to clients as well. You learn things from your clients. It's more those softer skills. How you're supposed to approach different clients. There have been clients that I've had to deal with where I walk into the room and we've all had that experience. They don't acknowledge you because you're a female. So what do you know about engineering? You can't be my designer, no way. But you've got to you then earn their trust. Um, and at the end of the day, they are the ones that basically respect you the most. But it's hard work. But yes, definitely mentors throughout my career, and I thank each and every one of them. Thanks.
Thank you. Same question to Jabu.
Yeah, sure. The same as Waseemah is I have been blessed to have so many incredible mentors around me. And mentors who really contributed to my career development from a technical aspect as I was progressing and growing as an engineer. Also, mentoring me in the business side, taking me to client meetings, showing me how to, rub shoulders with clients and talk the talk, walk the walk, sell. I've seen and a lot of them also, both men and women. So I'm really encouraged to I'm not going to mention names like Waseemah as well, but I'm encouraged to have seen throughout my career so many people who are willing to see women growing in the engineering space, developing in the engineering space. And I would encourage everyone to, it's not every mentor that might be one that you sit together and you have regular conversations. You do have those mentors that you sit with and you can be open with and have conversations on. Mentors are also people that you watch from afar, people that you observe, in their excellence in their space and exactly what they're doing. And you start to, just from your observations, glean key things from them as well. So really, mentorship has a huge part to play in anyone's career progression, because there's a lot of things. If you're coming through as an engineer or as a young person, you've never been exposed to, you've never been taught. Somewhere that knowledge needs to come from someone who's been there, done that. It's a lot easier to grow and quicker to grow when you can just learn from others who've already walked the path that you're now walking down to.
Okay, yes, thank you. No, very, very good answers there. I know that there's a lot of talk about mentoring, and we talk about the mentors of the year, and it feels like some people will ask, okay, yes, but that's just part of the job to mentor. But I don't think that it is just part of the job. I think that the better engineers that you're creating in your wake by being a good mentor is really what is so much more important. And I think that's why it's so important to honor those really outstanding mentors. Not the people who just get you over the line to getting your PR-Eng or any other certification. It's that lasting impact that really creates tomorrow's future leaders. That's very important. I see that we had a question from Patricia, and then she had a follow-up comment saying that she's starting her own. Let me just quickly see the rest of the question here. I see she's added a second part on. Okay, so Patricia started her own consulting company, and she asked to all of the speakers. I think that anyone is welcome to answer. She asked if anyone has had a woman of color as a manager, and then the reason why that she's asking that is that she says that she's always tried to unpack why women leave our industry and don't end up taking senior positions. So you can maybe just start off by answering that question. Have you ever had a woman of color as a manager? And if you have any thoughts on why it is that women maybe have the propensity to not stay in the industry until they're in leadership positions. Anyone is welcome to jump on that question as you are inspired.
Okay, maybe I'll start. So my journey, have I had any female managers? No, but I have worked very closely with other consulting companies who have had, when I was very much younger, females as managers, and they were all brilliant. They were all good, just as good, if not better, than their male counterparts at the time. So yeah. So for me, no, but have I been exposed to? Definitely, and it was a good experience from our side.
Okay, great.
I think Jabu wanted to say something else.
Yeah. Yes, thanks, Jabu. But yeah, I think, look, from my side, the same as Waseemah. I haven't reported directly to female leaders, but witnessed some incredible female leadership, Black women doing some incredible things out there. So yeah, I think there really are examples to follow if you really look and find and search a little bit more. I do think there's definitely room for more female leadership in the engineering space, and I think that's the whole point why we're here in the first place. Is we're wanting for engineers female women of color to remain in the space that we're in. I think a lot of the time they are some who transition out of the space because of various challenges and difficulties from operating in a technical environment. But yeah, some incredible examples that I've met and experienced over the years. Thank you.
I just want to add that the challenges why maybe some women leave the industry are not always due to difficulties in the industry, but a lot of them sometimes have to do with family dynamics. A lot of women still take the bulk of the load in terms of raising children and taking care of children, and they feel this pressure, or they, out of their own will, which is also okay, decide that they're going to take some time out while their children are young, and just give that attention and that full-time mom availability. And then when the children are older, whether high school or something, they then get back to the industry. But you can imagine they then return having lost so much of time, and it's now almost catch up, right? And then some of them then decide, I'm just going to stay on this technical side because that's what I have capacity for right now. I don't want to say it's the case for everyone, but I think we just need to remind ourselves that the challenges are not just because of the job itself, but there's family dynamics and other responsibilities that unfortunately women still carry the bulk of the load.
Yes, that is an unfortunate reality. And I think that, we do probably sit with the situation that, that mothering ability is actually what would make sort of the ideal manager, the ideal leader. But yeah, women are often asked to wear many hats, that take advantage of all the same attributes and the same skills. So it's a bit of a choice, but I think it's a choice that everybody faces choices. Jabulile, while we have you on, there's a question on the chat on what are your thoughts on how we can increase the number of women winning the Young Engineer of the Year award at the CISA Awards, while also ensuring we continue to recognize outstanding male engineers?
Let me first of all start by saying there is no gender criteria for the Young Engineer of the Year award. and it is all based on merit. I mean, that process of applying and interviewing, ultimately the best candidate needs to be chosen. And sometimes it's a guy and sometimes it's a girl, which is absolutely okay. One thing we can do to increase the chances of female winners is to get more applications, right? More people sending in or being nominated. And I think it comes from a point of confidence, because sometimes you don't see the greatness in yourself. But if you've got either a colleague or a friend who says, you know, I'm going to nominate you, just say yes. I'll get someone to help put everything together. You are that person. So I think a lot of people don't apply because they lack confidence. And then they wait until it's almost the age limit. I know it happened with me. I think I waited until I could have been 34 or something. But I just want to encourage us who are here, who see potential in some of our colleagues, just to encourage them to apply and help them see the greatness in themselves.
Yes, no, thank you. I think that I've observed exactly what you're saying, Jabulile, that you know, there's a lot of people who just simply don't believe in themselves, and they don't believe that they're, you know, sort of worthy of some sort of achievement, you know, being recognized. But you know, from the stories that we've heard today, it's very obvious that gender's got absolutely nothing to do with being an excellent engineer. So, you know, I want everybody to put that out of their mind, to say that, oh, because I'm a woman, you know, oh, I'll get it or I won't get it because I'm a woman. It's really, really got nothing to do with it. And I think that that's actually what's quite good about the CISO Awards in that category, is that, you know, it isn't a sort of a gendered award. I know that, you know, if you see sporting awards, if you see, you know, in the Oscars, you know, there's this idea that, you know, best actress is not as great as best actor. So I'm actually quite glad that it is kept as a single award, and, you know, you sort of remove that, you know, this award isn't as great as the other ones. Okay, I think we've got time for one more question. I just want to see if there were any follow-ups in the chat.
Warren, there's a question from Nhlapo that I think maybe Jabu and Waseemah can answer.
Yes. I was asking if you experienced it. Oh, yes. So I think that both of our speakers have sort of touched on this, but I think that if let's maybe start with Jabu, if you can maybe expand on this. So they say, I'm kind of not involved and not invited to client meetings. My seniors say the exclusion is to protect me. I'm not really getting any explanations, or I don't understand the explanations. So I'm just asking if you've experienced anything harsh that they could be protecting you from. So is there anything about a client meeting that you'd say you need to be protected from? Is there any reason you shouldn't be there?
Well, such an interesting question. You can see someone's gone through some few maybe arguments with their line manager, maybe. But yeah, look, the more I've grown in my career, Warren, I've seen that there really are some projects that I've been on that are incredibly challenging, where the client is incredibly difficult. You know, I've been on projects where clients have outright said that I don't want to see anyone junior in my boardroom. I need senior people in my boardroom, and really maneuvering that space as a leader in the engineering space. Sometimes there are situations where I have felt, look, you know, I want to bring the young people that I'm mentoring along on this project, but I think for the moment we just need to reserve exposure based on where they are at in their career. So yeah, I think what I have tended to do is where the client is a little bit, more forthcoming, easy to deal with. You sort of start exposing your young people that you're working with to those clients, and they start to build up a bit more confidence and see how you handle things in those environments. And as they've built up some confidence, then you can start inviting them to some of the more difficult projects. I think people might be surprised to know that there are some very challenging clients to deal with out there from a project point of view. And so do, where you can, trust your leaders in the decisions that they're making. Just that demonstration that you trust them in their leadership will also enable them to open up more opportunities to you.
Yeah, thank you. Waseemah, I saw you nodding along as well from that question. Do you have anything to add?
Yes, yeah. No, I'll obviously echo what Jabu said. But also just maybe just a question or something for the person to look out for is are any of your colleagues that are on the same level being excluded from the meetings as well, or is it only you? If it is only you, then I would say red flag. But if it is maybe a few of you and only the seniors are going, then that's understandable. Um, but also, I don't think there should be anything wrong with trying to explain to you exactly what the issue is. Like Jabu says, yes, we do have difficult clients, but if they can explain that to you, then it's absolutely it's better for you to understand where they're coming from, as opposed to maybe you feeling like you're being left out on purpose and being shortchanged from that experience of having a client engagement. So I think that's just my little bit of advice, is see if you can find out exactly what they're protecting you from, but also at the same time, if your colleagues on the same level are being taken to the meetings, I'd say that is an issue. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, harkens back to some of the other things that were said earlier. You might think that your hand is raised very high up and you're, saying, I want to be involved and I want to get more involved with clients. And, it might be a perception thing that somebody is saying, oh, your hand isn't raised as high as what you think it is. So I would say asking that question and saying, okay, but I've noticed I don't get invited to these client meetings. Well, first of all, why is it? And express your interest and say, I'm putting my hand up. I would really like to, because I think I can do this. And if they have any particular reasons to say, well, maybe it's a confidence thing, maybe it's not so much your age or your gender or your race. It could also just be that that they say, well, your presentation skills need a little bit of work. There's a reason why outcome 5 is one of the outcomes exists. Being able to present and communicate. So it's maybe something worth really asking them about. Say, where do you think I'm lacking? What is it that you think I'm being protected from? I think it's a very personal, matter that I don't think we could have a general answer for. Okay, thank you to everyone for all of your questions. We are approaching the end of our Q&A session. I just saw one of there's a lot of compliments in the chat. I'd encourage everyone to go through. A lot of people are saying, the journeys that they've been through, and I think there's one that's quite interesting here. This person says, I graduated in 1989 and started working construction in 1990. Not gonna lie, my journey in what is still the man's world has been challenging, but I'm very excited to see many more women in the field now that I'm approaching retirement. So like that is, I think that really sums up, if everybody can be saying that towards the end of their careers, that they say they're glad to see that it has changed. Okay, so let's just see. Somebody's saying that, so I would just like to thank everybody for attending. I'd like to thank our speakers for telling their stories, for answering all of the questions from the floor, for doing all the amazing work that they're doing and being an inspiration to other young engineers, to other female engineers, to other engineers, of color. Really, it is inspiring to hear these stories, and I hope everybody has taken something from this session. Yeah, so with that, I would like to close the Q&A session. If you have any more questions, I'm sure you can reach out to any of our speakers, even myself, if you want to hear my thoughts. You can reach out to us. I see everybody's got LinkedIn profiles, so I'm pretty sure they would be happy to respond to your questions and messages via various social media platforms. Okay.
Before we go, Warren, I just want to
Mhm.
say thanks to you. You've been an amazing facilitator. So thank you very much for coordinating this event as well as you have done. I just want to again say thank you to our speakers on behalf of CESA, Jabu. Thank you to you and Zutari for giving this time back to empower the next generation. Waseemah and Piésold, thank you very much. We really appreciate your time. We don't take it for granted. I mean, we all here. We lost a good 2 or so hours of billable time that we're probably going to make up after this. So we really appreciate what you're doing for the industry. Thanks to all three of you.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity. Okay, with that, thank you everyone, and goodbye. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.